Have you started revising for GCSE Literature Paper 2? Well, if not, I'm here to help. Hi, I'm Amabel, and today I'm offering a Grade 9 analysis of Poppies from AQA Power and Conflict. Poppies tells the story of a mother attempting to make sense of her son's departure for war and what is implied to be his death in conflict. The poem was written in 2009 by Jane Wire, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, who lived in Northern Ireland during the Troubles, a 30-year sectarian conflict between Irish Catholic Republicans and the British Protestant Unionist state. The notion of religion, something supposed to bring peace, being perverted to justify violence is especially significant in this poem, as the speaker repeatedly attempts to engage with an idealised version of reality, something religion often represents, while the truth, the destructive consequences of war, nonetheless bleeds through her words. The poem opens with, 3 days before Armistice Sunday and poppies had already been laid on individual war graves. Here and throughout the poem, the speaker uses enjambment and free verse to replicate a literary stream of consciousness, an unfiltered, continuous flow of thought that places us directly inside the speaker's mind, making her attempts to rationalise an unbearable situation feel immediate and real. This phrase also establishes a sense of predetermined fate. Those grieving do not need to wait for an official day of mourning. These deaths were set in stone from the start. By calling them individual war graves, Wire suggests that while soldiers are afforded some identity in death, this is still explicitly bound up with their association with war. Even in the peace that death brings, they cannot escape the reality of conflict. This is compounded when the speaker says, "Before you left, I pinned one onto your label." His death, it seems, was determined before he even departed. In the next lines, the theme of innocence corrupted by war begins to be consecrated. By using military imagery here and in the remainder of the poem, the speaker suggests that the reality of war has infused every attempt the speaker makes to soften the brutality of conflict. The noun spasms of paper red carries visceral connotations of blood, contrasted against the warmth and innocence suggested by the adjective yellow. The noun blazer can also either refer to a military or a school uniform, collapsing the distance between childhood and conflict and suggesting that the innocence of youth has been overtaken by the violence of war. The next stanza shows the mother attempting to reclaim some power by helping her son look presentable, removing cat hairs and smoothing his appearance. Yet the intrusion of martial language reveals how futile these attempts really are. The speaker attempts to repress her grief, resisting the impulse to run my fingers through the black thorns of your hair. Her words were flattened, rolled, turned into felt, and she references to play to suggest she is implementing a stoic facade to hide her intense melancholy, to become someone else entirely to make light of what is happening. But as this stanza trickles into the next with slowly melting, we understand that her constructive reality is already dissolving. The verb through imposes violence onto her attempts to stay composed, to stay brave, as reality will never be kept out. The heavy caesura before her son's departure slows the poem's pace. It is as if the mother is attempting to savour the little time she has left with her son. In The World Overflowing Like a Treasure Chest and the description of her son as intoxicated, Wire captures the son's perspective on the situation as he has been seduced by the exciting surface of military life. Yet, the noun phrase treasure chest carries with it intensely childish connotations, suggesting that perhaps he is not truly ready for what awaits him, while the use of a simile indicates that war will only resemble a treasure chest and that the reality will be far darker. The adjective intoxicated signifies momentary pleasure, the fantasy of war that draws young men in. But intoxication is fleeted and always followed by an intense and painful intrusion of reality, exactly what war will deliver. The caesura marking the son's departure is followed by his mother's retreat into his childhood bedroom, an attempt to recover the innocent child she once knew, who is now gone. She releases a songbird from its cage, something that, in theory, is a moment of beauty, granting a creature the freedom it longs for, just as she has allowed her son to leave. But a domesticated bird cannot survive in the wild, and neither, she fears, will he. The next few lines are infused with religious imagery and are some of my personal favourites in the entire poem. A single dove flew from a pear tree, and this is where it has led me, skirting the churchyard walls. In the Bible, after a flood has subsumed the earth and Noah has built his ark to save the animals and to save humanity, a dove is the bird that Noah releases to determine whether this flood has subsided. And it returns holding an olive branch, which signifies a final end to this flood and is thus often used to represent peace and to represent hope in literature. Here the dove flies from a pear tree, and now in literature normally kind of trees or references to fruit are meant to be kind of explicit references to the tree of knowledge in the Garden of Eden. So thus Wyatt implies that in order to find peace, the mother must abandon the pursuit of knowledge to live in a blissful state of ignorance. Yet this Edenic reference carries with it its own darkness. It is in this tree that the devil resides, tempting Eve towards sin. The mother may refuse the fruit, but evil lingers in the background regardless. Her ignorance cannot halt reality. This dove then leads her to some churchyard walls. The earlier reference to war graves primes the reader to assume that graves are probably present here too. Graves that the speaker has deliberately omitted from her description, as she is unwilling to accept that her son may soon be among them. The darkness of death intruding upon a religious space again alludes to the Troubles, where religion was corrupted to justify violence. Theoretically, religion should bring peace, but in reality, it often brings pain. When the speaker is without a winter coat or reinforcements of scarf, gloves, she momentarily allows herself to feel the bitter cold truth of reality, a reality hinted to through the military connotations of the noun reinforcements. Her only means of approaching this truth is through visiting a war memorial, described through the metaphorical noun wishbone. By claiming the names on this memorial are remembered through inscriptions, something fixed that cannot be changed or erased, she suggests that while war may steal physical life, the memory of soldiers is immortalized through these monuments, and this is her final attempt to find something redemptive in her son's inevitable death. The dove then returns, followed in the next line by the verb hoping, which confirms the bird's symbolic function. The image of it flying freely, representing her hope that her son will survive, is described as an ornamental stitch, something that only makes reality appear more bearable without actually relieving its weight. Her last hope, to hear your playground voice catching in the wind, is again only an idealistic dream. Her son is older now, his playground voice no longer exists, and even if it did, wind in itself is fleeting, while the verb catching suggests that the sound would only be faint, if there at all. This last line distills the poem's entire argument. No matter how desperately we cling to innocence, to hope, to the belief that things will be all right, in war, reality will always bleed through. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this grade 9 analysis of Poppies by Jane Wyatt. Again, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Please correct me in the comments if I'm not. Follow for more last-minute GCSE revision tips, and let me know in the comments what you would like to see next. If you're interested in one-to-one tutoring, then send an email to the email address in my bio, and I will get back to you very soon.